They're reading no counter definitions of quality of life. And when they're getting on case and saying that this is not objective or subjective, they're not offering any kind of counter interpretation. Weighing on balance or weighing CBA is certainly not a counter alternative. Off observation, one off resolution parameters, please. First of all, she indicates to them they're not objective. First of all, then I'd indicate we're objective as we maintain the balance between subjective and objective. We're indicating that we could have objective conditions which would determine the quality of life, but we're also indicating that the definition itself calls for subjective nature. Does the person actually foresee these objective conditions? At that point, we certainly maintain balance, whereas they're suggesting only one-sided view. Second of all, this is definition. This is not an argument of ground. We're not conceding, or we're not arguing that you would give us some type of objective ground. We're arguing this definitional parameters of quality of life, and there's no counter definition. Third point, this is determined within the evidence. Within the evidence, you can certainly take the subjective determination. Does the evidence say that people are pissed off? Does the evidence say that people perceive this? Certainly our evidence says. Next part says invites intervention. I would indicate the evidence certainly would remove intervention, and indicate you would evaluate whether or not our evidence says that these people perceive it. Certainly it does. Next part, let's see no threshold one person. I'm indicating first of all that the resolution does not demand this. It does not demand any kind of weighing mechanism. How many people have to be determined? It only says quality of life in the United States, and at that point the resolution would be true. Second of all, certainly there can be an unbalanced weighing of whether or not more people perceive harm or more people perceive good. Certainly we're not saying you would not balance at all. We're indicating that you still look at it through the first person and not the third person objective. She says no weighing mechanism. How do you determine significance? But I'm indicating case offers this versus the off case. Certainly their off case we have to filter through the definition of quality of life and design. Next point is we have the most complete definition. Our source suggests that quality of life involves many factors, while the negative claims is contextually exhausted by the phrase preservation of life. Next point is negative interpretation. Roots half the definition. Negative interpretation addresses only the objective conditions which may or may not enhance quality of life. It also addresses the definitional obligation to prove people's perceived enhancement or degradation of their life. Next point, topic literature is best for debate. Eighth point is most educational. Everyone was working from the same research base, thus the increased depth and understanding of relevant issues in class debate. Piece of point is first. Research base is the same for both teams. Next point is quality of life depends on the actual perception of the individual. Choice in quality of life in 91. On the one hand, the phrase quality of life can refer to distinct attributes of lifestyle as the aggregate and separated issues, but understood as somehow imparting the overall quality of that lifestyle. In either case, macro quality of the lifestyle is described by the individual, clearly rests on that person's perception of it. Next point is emotional will. We preserve the objective subjective balance. Affirmative grades, conditions of quality of life are objective for the most part. We preserve the definition by balancing with the sacred determination of the individual. Next point, that is quality of life must be recognized at the time of inquiry. Choice in the quality of life in 91. Individuals' particular quality of life may be defined as the realization of these attributes as they exist in their life at the time of inquiry. Physiological needs are excluded because in the U.S. they are certified at better substance levels. Next point is we provide a clear test for meaning and quality of life. That tests people's perception. If the negative reads card that says people will recognize or be aware of the risk of the dissats hampering their quality of life at the time of the advertisement, then it is a relevant argument. Otherwise, it has nothing to do with the quality of life, which is a construct of human perception of their own condition. Negative blurs distinction between quality and quantity. Next point is quality is distinct from quantity. Paragraph 95, above all, the quality of life must not be confused with the worth of life, which is a completely separate issue. Contention 1, or observation 2, please. Or no, she's arguing about the Coos cards is not subjective and there's no threshold, but this is taken above. Certainly you read the evidence on case. Contention 2 criteria. She says counter criteria CBA. Did you give me that stuff? First answer is limiting assumptions make a CBA difficult. Odin 85, the difficulty to use risk assessment tools are generated primarily by limitation of the assumptions used in these models. Generalizations may be enacted for specific sites and adequate basis. May be used criteria for assessing hazards and risk lacking in range performances cannot be predicted using currently available data. Next point is too primitive for decisions. Nelson 1980, the subcommittee, I believe that all the available evidence suggests that the formal CBA is simply a primitive tool to make decisive factor in rulemaking. Next point does not assume a definition of quality of life. Certainly we're indicating you cannot weigh that on a CBA basis, and you have to still prove perception. They would still have to filter through the actual definition, which is an argument. Next point, she says you can't debate this. We're indicating above this definition argument, not a debate argument of ground. Next point, she says all case would be rewarded. Certainly, then she is conceding the duty. The burden would be to show that the impacts of the dissat or the links of the dissat are perceived. Now, on third subpoint, she says this is okay. Well, this is okay, and that this is the case on premise. But this at that point, the dissat impacts would go away. We're indicating that you would have to presuppose life is there. Contention 1 significance. She says we're saying recap is not quantified, but we're indicating industry counting we have now. The first card indicates that right now there's an army of robots capable of calling everyone 20 million numbers a day. I'll say the third answer she makes is you don't know if it happens, but it indicates it does happen, and it says in the status quo. Next point, she says no threshold. Where they recap it, but the card's indicating it's happening now. Police in Gary 92 indicates the predicted violence have a steady stream now. Police in the Andrews indicates 100 people per second are called. And the last card says junk facts indicating they abuse this now, and it has become a big advertising medium. Next point would be, no, that's enough. Contention 2, observation 2, or contention 2. She's first card equals A equal an alarmist, and the second card says they're not sure the problem. First of all, we're posting with both pieces of evidence from 91 versus the 89 cards, indicating they are a problem now. Second of all, the cards are not absolute, indicating that some people are alarmists, not indicating any kind of specific snares. Please, in the first card is Segura, indicates that it might be slight, but it says quality of life right now is being increased. It is contextually valid, indicates that the resolution is being increased. Next point, this card assumes the bill was passed in January, but the bill that they're passing on the database certainly has no enforcement. We were calling Senator Hollins, 2 weeks ago to find this out, and that's what the card is assuming. It's an 89 card. It indicates it's already passed. Next point, it says only vulnerable. We're indicating they are vulnerable, and because of that vulnerability, their quality of life is decreased. On the Hollins card, she says no reason, no impact, no threshold. It indicates people are pissed off and such why they perceive this. In fact, they want to rip the phone off the wall. That's the perception card. On the ID card, she says it's not a nuisance, and she does not approve. But the card indicates it's tell nuisances. These tell sons of bitches call people. The card is specific. It's using next Hollins. She says 30%, no analysis, but it indicates they have terrorism. These are all presses. On the New York Times card, she says I say an incident that not true indicates in general people are pissed off. They get bad. Down below she says not say good. Some companies equal funny. It indicates some companies funny, but the overriding evidence we're presenting causes bad. On visa point, she says no quantification of one incident, seeing that's it. But then cards indicates that in general they can't tie up. They have this possibility, and empirically it's happening. Off case. I can't speak. First argument will be court clause. First of all, it's not filtered correct here. They're not indicating the people who like these nuisance calls because they realize they would for court clog in the long run. All this ads would have to filter through. Next point, there's no link. There's no indication that we would increase life. Next point, the case is not proactive, so we would not advocate any increase in loss. Next point, is case is necessary but not sufficient for critique of change. We're only critiquing, we're not changing. Next point, there's no link that the affirmative would support laws in any way, shape, or form. Next point, case turns. If anything, we're indicating the right to privacy is violated with telemarketing. There'd be more litigation status quo with these telemarketers. Next point, there's not unique laws passed every day. Next point, there's no threshold. At what point the laws will become good? The court only says that increased litigation is bad. Plus, we'll be flipping on media. First of all, please classify above, indicating they would not perceive this, i.e. does not go through the filter of criteria. Second of all, this is specific to television, not telemarketing, i.e. these are phones, these are not television, i.e. telemarketing has absolutely nothing to do with media. Next point, decrease in telemarketing, increases media ads. And at that point, that would be some legitimate flip. If we were to have some kind of case position off case, we'd indicate when you decrease telemarketing ads, they would go then to the medians like i.e. CBS and on people on TV. Next point, there's not a specific card to telemarketing. Shouldn't let case cards are case continuous impacts off criteria would be. Next point, there's not a filter through criteria. Next point would be goal of speech equals judicial intervention. Negligent before coming to the courts of police free speech is the thing that can be overseen, measure achieved, starting from these assumptions of that short step, the conclusion that skillful judicial intervention in discrete cases might improve the overall system. Next point, absolute principles over protect speech. Negligent before the difficulty is that by definition the use of the principle requires courts to protect speech even in cases in which the immediate advantage is questionable and the social disadvantages are clear. Next point is speech rights are restricted. Negligent before justice over protection of speech rights once help to discredit the principles of federalism, over protection of freedom of expression might gradually discredit the value of free speech. Next point, this is a flip. It indicates when you increase legal protection that you have judicial intervention, which decreases the media rights in the long run. Furthermore, flips court clout because it indicates this rigid interpretation of free speech rights would also increase judicial intervention. On whole rest. Off to be some point. Please, first of all, there is no standard. Second of all, they're not indicating what's typical. Third point would be front burden of the negative to quantify. Next point would be case says significant medium of advertising. Next point is advertising not a general concept, must analyze specific types. It's clear in 87 companies and advertising and lower lumped together quite different types of advertising. Never talk about advertising in general. Follow up on that same kind of always have the same custom expect. Next point is distorts education specific cases, forces debaters to learn all the relevant aspects concerning advertising rather than deflect relevant orientation and the whole rest. Next point is there is no our next point would be cannot discuss advertising generally. Sinclair 87 the study of advertising tell us anything but the advertising both economic and non-physiological on them. We need to be able to ascertain what type of advertising under discussion at any stage. Next point is resolution is the adaptive role of the next 86. Kind of generalization should be true by message describing instances similar properties both fighting a row or dog. The bargain made by the rule of forms of the courts candidates only survive comes to other rules exception with them. Next point is that the resolution operates as an attribute not a conjunction, thus warrants a discussion of a specific type of advertising, i.e. that type of advertising. And we'll see it.
First of all, can I get your cards and what all the media class that you have?
Yeah.
And could you explain the flip, please?
We're arguing that when your goal is to protect speech, i.e. media speech that you do, then you're setting precedents for further judicial intervention. That when we have these type of precedents set in the status quo, our goal is going to be protect speech, protect media rights, and that only begs intervention more. It gives them more judicial legal roles that they can handle with, and they actually come in and regulate it even more. You have more intervention by the courts.
Okay, let's go back to quality of life, the criteria. Okay, off of our number 4, could you tell us your responses, please? One by one.
Okay, George.
I'm sorry, what are you?
Off of,
Criteria? Okay.
off of the number 4, I think it was off the quality of life definition.
Off the second card, you mean? Was starting with the says don't filter your criteria?
Yeah, off case is not.
Off number 4, we said no weighing mechanism.
Oh, okay. His first is resolution doesn't demand weighing, doesn't demand threshold. The second is we provide an unbalanced weighing mechanism. You can compare how many people are perceive the threat, perceive the decrease in body.
Officer's response. No way mechanism case offers this second B for most complete definition.
The first one is that this has zone filter through criteria. The second one is we offer the most complete definition because we provide this balance between objective circumstances and subjective perception.
Keep going.
Third, negative interpretation moots out the interpretation of quality of life, which is definitional. Fourth is topic literature is best. Then A increases education. B increases fairness because all debaters have access. The next is quality of life is dependent on perceptions of individuals. The next is the same balance argument as above, objective versus subjective. The next is quality of life must be determined at the time of inquiry and physiological effects should not be weighed. The next is we provide a new test. Do they perceive the risk of this ad? The next is quality is distinct from quantity of life.
And there's a card, right?
Yeah.
Brief on those first. I remember that for years.